The book is called A Secret Music. It's about two brothers, musicians, who grow up in the shadow of their mother's mental illness. So it's set in a time period, the 1930s in Montreal, at a time when mental illness was an extremely stigmatizing aspect of family life. And these two brothers, their mother is in and out of the Verdun asylum, and it's a deep, dark family secret. And when Lawrence, the pianist, and his younger brother John, the singer, when John starts to get sick, the two brothers think nothing about keeping their own secret. So it's a book about Lawrence wanting to make a mark on the world with his incredible talent and his conscience, the weight of his conscience when he makes this decision about his brother John. So it's a book about siblings, it's a book about belonging, it's a book about how music can redeem a life, and ultimately it's a book about love because it's a book about a family. I chose the 1930s because the book is loosely based on aspects of my father's life. He had a very sad childhood, and I used some of the events, some of the things that happened to him, and I wove that through the story. And you know, here in 2015, it amazes me how mental illness, it just seems to have exploded. So many more people have mental illness nowadays, and I wanted to look back at the previous generation to see what was happening in the 1930s, to see if there was, is it environmental, is it genetic? And that particular decade was an extremely difficult decade. I mean, between the two wars, and families had lost uncles, brothers, sons in World War I. Polio was contagious. There were no vaccinations for measles, mumps, and rubella. And then, of course, the Great Depression, the crash of 1929. You know, people's savings were lost. There were bread lines. I mean, it was an extremely difficult decade. And on top of that, if you had a nervous breakdown, you were quickly carted off to an asylum. There were no treatment options apart from sedatives or shock therapy, metrazole therapy, really barbaric forms of treatment, and all terribly stigmatizing for the family, that it was very underground and almost a cover-up. And that's what I based my story, A Secret Music, on that time period.